So I'm currently a third year counseling psychology doctoral student here at the University of Tennessee. So I am within the greater psychology department, but my specific program is the counseling psychology program. I have a number of roles on campus. I am a student, so I take classes just like undergrad students do. And then I also conduct research. So I have an area of research that I focus on. And then I also teach Psych 110. So I do that as well. And then finally, I work at the counseling center on campus. So my area of interest is really in diversity work. And so I've done a lot of work related to diversity and equity and inclusion on campus. I started doing that as an undergrad at Ohio State. So I actually, when I was an undergrad, I worked on developing a diversity training workshop for the rec sports program. I think it really has to do with the fact that psychology is everywhere. So no matter what you end up doing with your life, if you learn about psychology, it is going to benefit you because it's the study of people, right? So it's studying how we work in relationships, how we work in groups, how we work individually, right? Our mental health. And so these are all things that I think are just important no matter what. I don't want to talk down on other programs, but I don't know how applicable engineering is in your day-to-day life. And now I'm not an engineer, so I don't know. Maybe they could make the argument that they use it every day. But I know that the things that I learn in psychology, I use literally in every interaction that I have with people and all day throughout the day. Like I'm aware of how I feel and where my mental health is at. And so I think that it is just one of those things that if you learn about it, no matter what you do in your life, it's always going to benefit you. And so that's what I really like about it. Being a licensed psychologist or being a psychology professor, it's a respected profession. I think doing anything with mental health, whether that's even if you are a licensed clinical social worker or a licensed counselor ed, or anything like that, those are all really well respected professions in our society, and they help people a lot, right? So you're falling within that helping profession. And just in general, I think there's a lot of benefit that you get from that, right? You get to feel good about the work you're doing. You get to feel like you're helping other people, and making a positive impact on the world. So I don't think I've ever really heard anyone say like, oh yeah, I work in social work, and then everyone's like, why? Like, people generally like, okay, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Good for you. So I think it is well respected and it's needed. It's definitely, there's always going to be, it's one of those jobs you can get and you're never not going to be able to find a job. So that's also really nice. Yeah, so we have a really unique, well, my specific program, the counseling psychology program, is really unique. So most counseling psychology programs are accredited through the American Psychological Association, through a model that's called the Boulder model, this is probably more detailed than you want, but we're the only accredited program in the country that has a different model than that. And it was created here at UT. And it is called the Scientist Practitioner Advocate Model. So it's got a specific component of it that is focused on advocacy. So it is really, there's a heavy focus on social justice, that kind of stuff. So what that means for us is that I actually have an additional practicum experience. So on top of all the things I already mentioned, I actually also volunteer at a nonprofit organization off campus. And help them do whatever it is that they need to do. So I think that is kind of a unique part of our grad school experience. You're not going to find that really at any other program. Okay, this is my biggest piece of advice, and I'm glad you brought this up because I'm going to talk about it in lecture tomorrow. I think that the number one thing you can do in undergrad is try a lot of different things. I think the biggest mistake people in undergrad are making right now is they pigeonhole themselves into one thing, and they feel like they need to get a ton of research experience in this one area, or they need to like just really focus so much on one thing. And really, I think people lose sight of the benefit of being a well-rounded person. What grad schools actually want to see more is that you joined some clubs, you had some friends, you did some social activities, you have a physical activity that you enjoy. Maybe you did do some research or some type of project, but really it's more about, can you be well-rounded, and also can you show that there was something you genuinely cared about? So I think what happens is a lot of undergrads are like, I have to have research experience to get into grad school. And so they just ask any professor that they can. And the first one who says yes, they jump in their lab and work on some project. But then if you ask them about it, they genuinely don't care about the research or really know that much about it because they don't care. And that is not going to look as good as someone who just did their own thing and like volunteered with an organization because they genuinely cared about it. So it's picking that thing that you actually care about and then trying to commit to that instead of just like checking the boxes, which is hard. And I know that, but I think it benefits people more in the long run. I didn't do any research prior to graduate school, which I know is probably like, you guys are going to start getting the messaging that you have to do research prior to applying to grad school. And that might be true for some programs, but it isn't true for all of them. And what I did, I told you there at the beginning, is I made that diversity training workshop. That was something that I genuinely cared about. It wasn't related to research. It was just something that I wanted to do. And that was what got me into grad school, is because I was able to say, like, hey, look at this thing that I did that there wasn't a grade attached to, and nobody told me I had to do it, but I just saw the need for it. And so I did it. And that mattered so much more to grad programs than me having like been in a lab and just like helped write a couple papers, and not really cared about it. So it's just like going with what you actually care about and what you're actually passionate about.